And by the way, if you ever have something that you're trying to work on and you need to develop it, come up with some little progression or etude or song. It makes it a lot more interesting. So let me demonstrate it for you now slow, and then I'll play it up to tempo. Now I'm going to demonstrate this up to speed with the metronome. Make sure that the pick strokes are even and that you maintain, in this case, down, up, down, up, down, up, because we're starting on a higher string and going to a lower string, which once again makes us encounter this inside of the string technique. So here we go. Now that exercise specifically narrows down the problem and concentrates only on that problem. But the thing is, you're going to encounter this picking hang-up through an arpeggio. In other words, some part of the arpeggio you'll have no problem playing, and other parts you might have this inside of the string thing. Let me demonstrate on a major arpeggio. If I play G major in the 7th position, I have down, up, down, up. Now the initial down, up isn't a problem. Either is the next down. But it's when you go to the D on the G string, you have the inside of the string picking down, up. So in order to play that quickly, you're going to have to overcome that little problem right there. So once again, instead of practicing that same arpeggio over and over, I came up with another little etude that incorporates major and minor arpeggios, and that picking hang-up is kind of snuck in the middle of the arpeggios. So it's not just only concentrating on that, but it's incorporating it into a larger picture. Here it is slow. Now I've added an extra challenge to this one because not only are we working on the picking hang-up, but we're skipping strings while doing that hang-up. Let me show you where that happens. Right over here between the D and its octave, between the D and the C, between the D and the B. You're playing up, down, and also trying not to hit the B string while you're at it. Here it is up to tempo. I first picked up the guitar when I was 12, and I didn't take any formal lessons. I took music theory my last 2 years in high school, so I had 2 years of that, and I went to Berkeley right out of high school. A couple of times I had some scattered lessons before Berklee. I took a few lessons to try to prepare myself, and I remember going to group classes with a friend of mine, but I never really took any formal continuous lessons. By the time I went to Berklee, I had been working on technique and chops and stuff like that, and I had a couple of years of classical music theory. So when I came into Berklee, all the things like arranging and sight singing and harmony and a jazz perspective, I had no clue. So I remember taking the placement and just getting in like level 1 of everything and starting from scratch. And I think that most I learned there was in harmony and about chord structure and progressions, and also how to continue to learn, because that was one of the things that I kind of picked up on, is that there's such a resource out there, whether you're going to school or not. I mean, it's great to go to school because you have the discipline of going every day, but there's just so many resources out there. And the students that really applied themselves, whether it was to the library, the listening rooms, or attending recitals, they really excelled. And the ones that just kind of sat there and thought it was all going to come to them eventually weren't there anymore. Now I'd like to concentrate on left-hand strength. What we're going to do is we're going to work on some scale fragments once again, but instead of picking them, we'll play them legato. In other words, we'll use all hammer-ons and pull-offs. And basically, I'm going to show you a couple of different patterns, and then I'll show you how to practice them. So let's start with the legato patterns. Okay, this is how we're going to practice these. You're going to play each pattern to a watch this time for a minute each. If you feel like you need more, you can do each for 2 minutes or 3 if you'd like. The idea is to not stop. Do one exercise into the next, a minute each. And you can play them at varying speeds. Just make sure that the notes are clean and that you're using complete legato technique. Now, with the last couple, notice I did pick, except I only picked when I was ascending from the D string to the G. Happened right over here. So in this case, it was on the C sharp. That's the only other time you're going to pick. Also, when you practice these, you don't have to stay in the positions that I just showed. You can practice them on any string. You could stretch your fingers out. You can play them in any position, in any key, diatonically or chromatically. Let me demonstrate a little bit. Remember, 1 minute each without stopping.